hello. uh, it's me, Serial Eater. Okay. Um, it's it's me, you guys. Your local curmudgeon about things that are book-ish. um, I'm actually here to talk today about my experiences with the Night Vale book by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor, which are the people who made the Night Vale podcast. And I will start this review with I did DNF this book. I DNF'd this book pretty early on, as maybe 100 pages in. But the reason why I still decided to speak on this book was because also listened to the podcast afterwards. I read the book first. I listened to the audiobook first, and then I listened to the podcast. I would say that without spoilers, I'm going to tell you basically the bare bones minimum about this book, because I honestly know the bare bones minimum about this book, and it's because I didn't go in too far. It was about Jackie Fierro. She gets a piece of paper from some mysterious person, and she's basically trying to figure out what this is, where it came from, and then shenanigans. And then the other part of the book is about Diane Creighton and her son Josh, who is a shapeshifter, and basically trying to figure out where Josh's dad is. But that's what's on the dust cover. The amount that I got through was basically um Diane thinks she's going crazy. And that's and that's as far as that goes in the book. The reason why I DNF'd this book was because it is written in such a way that I believe that it's supposed to be forcefully very confusing. And there are a lot of examples I could read off that would show that it is just confusing, because they start talking about random things or seemingly random things, like Diane's house's thoughts, like her physical location, what the house is thinking. Or, they talk about angels, or it kind of goes back and forth. Because I am not a fan of Night Vale, um let me walk that back. Because I wasn't initially a fan of Night Vale, I've never listened to the podcast. I never consumed any Night Vale media before this book. Reading the book from a perspective from somebody who is trying to understand the fandom, the media that it comes from, I feel like if you go into this book, you're going to have a very bad time. You're going to not understand the media that it's supposed to be, because the media that it is currently in this book is over explaining the magic that is the world of Night Vale. Because the podcast is done in such a way where it is like basically a radio show. So you get this radio show, you listen to the radio show, you hear about all this crazy shit, but the broadcaster never tells you in depth what any of the characters, people, anyone is thinking. Then that's just me from the first episode of the podcast. I don't know much more than that, so I might be speaking incorrectly, but in my opinion, that's what it feels like. They don't seem to go deeply into the mindset of the people who live in this weird town. The comedy that goes with this kind of science fiction book, especially since it is kind of a talk on making the absurd otherworldly beings that live in Night Vale into more mundane things. I feel like it just over explains all of that in the book, which takes you out of what I feel like it should be, which is I feel like the podcast lets you think about the world of Night Vale. It lets you imagine things just via the newscast about what might have happened to have this be broadcasted on live radio. While in the book, it forces you to constantly rethink things, especially like in the most negative way possible. Like Josh is a shapeshifter. This is me kind of explaining what it says in the book, which is imagine a teenager. Nope, that's not correct. You were not right. Nope, 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 nope. And it's like, I don't. You tell me to imagine a teenager, and then you tell me that I imagined wrong, which feels bad. And I understand. I understand the absurdist way that this is written because it is written that way for a purpose. And that is to retain some of the mystery of the world of Night Vale, which it doesn't do. It just makes it hard to read. I feel like there's a magic that comes with the broadcasts that is not captured in this book. Do I suggest this book to anybody? No, I don't. Because the actual original platform that this was first experienced on, the podcast, is actually the best way to consume this media. This is actually a book that was on my Discords. Suggest me a book, and I put 4 books up. So, and then they voted on a poll and they chose Night Vale. I'm not sure how many of the people in my Discord have read the book. I know at least one of them did. And he explained to me that it is purposefully written confusing, and it is purposefully written confusing. And I completely understand why that is. I assume to retain some of the mystique of the world. But I feel like it still is over explaining something that should have stayed, unexplained. I feel like people would enjoy this better as the podcast because I did genuinely enjoy the podcast a lot better. I feel like I wasn't trying to get through this wall of stuff that felt LOL random than just understanding the media that it was trying to be to begin with. The beginning of the podcast is great. I am giving a very, I literally did this all this morning and I'm recording this after lunch because I quickly wanted to get a better understanding because I didn't want this weird book to taint any of my opinion of, the media that it is. Personally, just listen to the podcast. I enjoyed the podcast. I thought it was really funny and I thought it was really clever. And even though that absurd crap is still happening in the podcast, it leaves so much more to the imagination than the book does. The book actually feels like it dampers creativity in a way that isn't great for enjoying Night Vale. This is going to be a really short video, and I realize that because I can look at the time and see that it's pretty short. But I just wanted to put my idea out there because, I'm a book reviewer, not a podcast reviewer. But because I feel like people will look up this book and try to, read it and stuff, I wanted to put my opinion there because they might not want to listen to the podcast afterwards, which I don't think is a good idea. I think that if you were interested in something like Night Vale, if the back of the book, if like the premise of the Night Vale book made you go, I would love to experience that, I don't think that the book is going to do it justice. I know there's 2 other books in the series. I'm probably not gonna read them, definitely not. Will I listen to the rest of the podcast? Probably. For fun. Because it is fun. It is a fun podcast. Book, not fun. Podcast, good fun. Because I do like that stuff. It's just the book ain't. But yeah. Anyways, thank you for coming to my short book talk about this very specific book because I feel like it's worth listening to the podcast. It is very worth listening to the podcast. It's not worth reading that book, though. It's hard to concentrate on. And I had the book, and one of my friends actually read my copy of it. And he basically said, I'm going to put this down because I don't get it. And I was like, what do you mean you don't get it? Whatever. It's just a book. And I get why he didn't get it now. Anyway, you all have a nice day. I stream weeknights on Twitch, usually Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. My schedule changes a lot. Check my card for if you want to know what my schedule is for that week, because my card is usually updated. And like, comment, and subscribe. I'm sorry if I offended you if you love this book. I just didn't. It wasn't for me. I understood it, but it takes a lot of mental strain on me to try to do the backwards hoop jumping through this book. Anyways, goodbye. Bye, YouTube.